bringing you truth. I'm Asnafrika. Welcome back. If it's your first time here, this is going to be an energy reading that I do every moon cycle. So I'm going to go ahead and share the full reading. This is an alchemical oracle system based on ancient African symbolism. So, what many people may know as ancient Egyptian. I'm a sacred wisdom keeper. So, I really use the cards to transmit sacred symbolism and really exercise your intuition. So, this is a different reading than what you're used to, but I'm going to go ahead and just dive right in because this is my pyramid reading. So, I want to show you the spread. And then, right now, publicly, I'm just going to share the first three cards. And for those of you who are members of the Tehuti Ma'at militia, you can get the extended reading, the entire reading. And if you want more information about that, you could just check the description below and join Tehuti Ma'at. And we are a revolutionary instrument focused on developing revolutionary institutions in the areas of healing, art, and education. Again, more info all in the description box, okay? So let's go ahead and I'm going to share with you the full reading. So this is a Merkut reading, and pretty much the flow of the reading, it's a 10 card spread. As I said, I'm going to focus in on these top three cards here, which the lighting is kind of difficult with, but I'm going to focus on the first three. But just to give you the full schema, it is a reading that goes through the four elements. So this is our fire principle. This is the spark of the entire reading. Everything else is informed by this top card here. Then we go into the air element. So this is the Ba, the magical mental body. Then we go into the water element. This is the emotional realm. And then we go into Geb, the earth, which is the physical material reality. This reading is very interesting. There's a lot of phallic energy. So we got a lot of masculine energy here. And without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and dive in. I just want to station this. I do apologize because usually when I do the readings, I have a more stabilized situation. Oops, but I had to do it in a different way. But I just wanted to make sure to get the reading up for you all. So, all right, that being said, let's go ahead and dive right in. So the first card of the reading is Atum. And Atum is a card or a neter, right? Or neteru. So these are divine forces and principles. What many people may be misinformed about is interpreting the energies as gods and goddesses, and that's not what they are. They are natural forces and principles that exist in nature that are indwelling within us and throughout the multiverse, right? So it's not anything externalized outside of you. This is a sacred science, really. So a lot of those preconceived notions, you definitely want to override that and think about this in scientific energetic terms, because Atum, many people do know also as Atin, right? So the number of the card is 1, and it's in the house of Ra, which is the house of the sun. Now, the first thing I always want you to do with my readings is just go ahead and intuitively just receive whatever comes for you. And I always encourage people to have a journal or a piece of paper to write down your notes or take notes on your phone and just put down what comes up for you intuitively. That's very important. I'm not going to hold all the cards up like this. You can pause on the next two cards as well. But the number of the card is 1, which means it is a initiation card, right? 1 is the first number in a sequence and it's initiatory. Now, obviously you can see that this is a masculine neteru, right? And neteru is when we say plural. So neter is the divine in its totality, right? So it was still a monotheistic, not religion, but culture, tradition, I should say. And it also looked at each distinct aspect of neter, of the divine. And when you're speaking of them in plural or an individual aspect, you speak of it as a neteru, right? So Atin is a neteru. And as we get deeper into the reading, for those who do watch the extended reading, I do get more deep into the distinction between the totality and each individual part, because that's a big part of the reading. Because really, what's available to us is infinite potentials. There's a lot of energy of rebirth and regeneration and rejuvenation. And that's the essence of the phallic energy. And when I say phallic, I mean the erection, right? I mean the divine masculine. I mean our active energy. I mean the henenum, which is the ancient word in Meduneter, which many people know as the hieroglyphs, but Meduneter means divine communication, essentially, divine speech. And henenum is the word for penis or phallus, right? Henenum obviously has a stronger, deeper vibration. I love it as an ancient word. And then the opposite, just to keep us balanced, is shetet. So you can go ahead and repeat after me, shetet. Shetet is the vagina, right? Or yeah. And it's just energetically, you can just hear those words and the vibration just gives off a different energy. I think it's very important for us to reclaim and restore our tongue. So that's also one of the things I like to teach through this work. So anyway, this card of Aten really speaks to this creative force that is available to us, and that is the spark of the energy. Now, I hope the screen just black. I hope it's fine. But it is creative energy. All right, and it's the source of creative energy. You can see that he's in the blackness. His skin is in that infinite potential, because Aten is the bull of his mother. That's one of the ways that he's described, because this is the energy of a self-creating creative force, right? He created from within himself. So previously in other readings, I've also talked about the card of Mut, because she's also a, you know, balanced energy that speaks to the ability to create from within the self, from that wholeness. And that's going to be a lot more potent as we get further into reading as well, because there's a lot of energy for beneficial union and partnership. But first, that must begin within ourselves through the balance of our divine masculine and feminine energies within us. All right, because everything that we attract outside of us is a reflection of what is going on within us. So that's actually the inner work that we need to be doing. But the guiding principle for the energy that we're moving through from now into September, so that means when Mercury or Tehuti stations retrograde, and even as Heteru Venus stations direct, we're going to have this energy that is supporting creative potential and the essence of creation. So it's actually the first impulse to creation, right? Because this is the energy of self-projection. So our ability to create from that which we have, the inspiration, right? Essentially. And that blackness really represents the energy of fertility as well. So he's also wearing the double crown of upper and lower Kemet. That means mastery of the higher and lower self, or of the spiritual and physical realms. So again, that's Smaitawi energy. Smaitawi is the union of the two regions. Okay, so this is all about that balanced authority and ability to create from that space of inspiration and that first impulse to creation. So as we move down into the next energy layer of the pyramid, that is the mental. So we're talking about thoughts and ideas. And the first card is speaking to thoughts and ideas that are still having an influence on us from the previous cycle. Because remember, we're in a continuum, so there is no past, present, and future. And this card is all about that, because the energy that we're in right now is actually about regeneration, and how all we go from or to and from is birth to rebirth. Excuse me. All we go from is birth to rebirth. So life and death are part of this eternal, continual cycle. So in the continuum of eternity, we exist in the now, and in the now everything that could ever exist is existing, right? And that means that the now is the expression of the choices we've made in the past, and it's also creating the reality that we will exist in the future. So this is our moment of power. And the influence that's kind of behind us, that's still influencing our thoughts and our mind, is this energy of Wajet. So again, as I said, please go ahead and feel free to pause here so that you can intuit whatever comes up for you intuitively. And I want to just share that this energy is in Ta, that's the house of the earth, right, of the planet. And it's also the card number 3. And the card number 3 is a creative energy because it is the Trinity, right? In the sequence, we go from 1 to 2. The 2 multiplies into the 3. The 3 is the creative force. So again, a lot of creative energy and potential here for this cycle that we're in right now. And Wajet is a very significant energy because, as you can see here, it is the right eye of Ra, right? And the right eye is the solar eye. And then it's interesting because on the third realm, even though I'm not going to go on this in this card, we literally have the balancing energy to this, which is the left eye, the lunar eye. But that's an emotional energy. And it's interesting because the previous cycle that we had, this was actually in the future position, right? The next card that I'll do for our thoughts. So pretty much the thoughts and ideas that are ahead of us, in front of us. So now this energy has moved into the emotional body, into the spirit, the Ka. So the solar is active, the lunar is receptive, right? Because we're dealing with active, masculine is the solar, and lunar is feminine. So it's interesting here that we have this solar eye with this creative energy. Wajet is really depicted as one of the serpent energies. It is the cobra. It is not in the same vein that in some other traditions the serpent is depicted as a negative energy. The serpent here is depicted as, which we have many different serpent interpretations. You also have that parasitic energy of Apep, which is a negative energy. However, here with the cobra specifically is what we know about in the Sanskrit as the Kundalini, right? It's also that energy spiral that uncoils as we have our spiritual awakening, and that's what this card actually represents. So it's that enlightenment that we just experienced that's in the previous cycle. It's still having an influence on our thoughts and our ideas right now. So that spiritual awakening, that magical protection as well. And when I say magical, I don't mean it in this like ethereal mystical way, but literally the power that we have to influence energy. So it's about wielding that power for protection. Okay, and when we're talking about protecting the mind, we're talking about protecting the the soul, right? So it's higher level protection. So we're talking about real deep energy work, and that being an energy that's still present with us. I always think it's interesting to mention as well that the Wajet and Nekbet are both on the crown of the Nesubiti, which many people know from the Greek interpretation of the pharaoh. But the Nesubiti is the term that our ancestors used. Now, that position and that role was often occupied by a masculine presence. And it's interesting because there's so much masculine energy in this reading. And again, we all, regardless of whether we were born male or female, we both have masculine and feminine energy, but there's going to be a dominant force depending on our biochemistry, right? So obviously being born with a womb as a woman, I'm going to lean more towards, and some people say, maybe 60% on the feminine, and vice versa. If you're a male, it would be 60% on the masculine, and that other 40% would be feminine. And that's important because we have to operate within our natural chemistry. However, if you want more into this topic, I did do a great live stream for our talk show, The Professor and Priestess, with Mama Regina Jennings. Dr. Regina Jennings is one of the original Black Panthers. If you haven't watched any of the episodes in that series, you could definitely check it out. But specifically, there's an episode that we just did about the balance of the sexes, and we kind of go in on this topic and really extrapolate. But for now, I'll leave it at that, because it's interesting to know that both of those divine feminine principles of the divine feminine intuition, Wajet, and the divine mothering principle, the nurturing principle, is what the masculine would wear on the crown. Even when we had women who held that position, which was a rare thing, because it was one thing to operate as a queen, it was a different thing to operate as the king. And I'm using those terms as well loosely because those are not the terms that we used. But my point is that there was a role that was for the wife of the Nesubiti, and then there was the role of the Nesubiti, which was honored as a masculine principle, but that the power and authority he carried was given to him by his mother and his wife, right? So that's very significant in terms of keeping the balance in perspective from an ancestral perspective in terms of how we saw the positioning of masculine and feminine energy. Now, the third card that I'm going to share and complete our mini reading today is Kemetef. And Kemetef, remember, as I said, pause it if you need to. It's in the house of which is the moon. The number is 8. 8 easily can be seen as the infinity. And this number 8 is that number of eternity, right? It has no end, but it literally depicts Kemetef, because Kemetef is the serpent swallowing its own tail. And it's usually shown even as in that figure 8 position. Now, Kemetef is a very significant energy because it really represents continuity. It represents that birthing cycle into a rebirth, and how there's really no end and everything just continues. So when we have death, that death is for rebirth. And it's an expression of the universal aspect of regeneration of our existence and of the entire scope of our existence, like beyond our physicality. So I just want to, let me hold it up a little more. It kind of looks like it's in a funhouse mirror type of thing. And Kemetef really represents immortality, right? It's the continuity of life, and it's also the renewal of life. So what does that mean in magical mental, right? In the Ba. On a soul level, on a mental level, we're talking about renewing our thoughts, right? We're talking about the immortality of thought forms as well, right? Because there are different types of entities. We create entities even with our thoughts, because the entire scope of our universe is vibrational and our thoughts vibrate. So many people think that their thoughts are private, and our thoughts are not private because our thoughts are vibrating. Just like the Wi-Fi is everywhere, it depends on your ability to tune into the frequency, whether or not you're going to pick up on that. So a lot of us, when we go through our spiritual awakening, or when we have certain psychic abilities and different gifts, clairvoyance, claircognizance, and all the other clears, you're usually just able to tune in to certain frequencies. And that refinement is what allows us to tap into this eternal field that really is part of our ecosystem. It's all interconnected, right? So the card itself in that position really is speaking to the renewal of our thoughts, our ability to regenerate our thoughts, but also recognizing that thought forms, once we create them, they want to continue to exist. So one of the ways you can think about that is thoughts that you maybe have been nurturing that have been limiting or been creating self-doubt, allowing yourself to honor those thoughts and bring them to completion, bring them to the end of their cycle, right? So that death for rebirth, right? Regenerate that thought, reprogram that thought, right? Emphasis on Ra, the solar energy. Shine a light on it, cast it out, because a big part of this reading that is the connection between the earthly and the spiritual is actually the energy of exorcism, Kansu. So again, if you are interested in the full reading, please join Tehuti Ma'at. At the Kingdom rank, you can have access to the ARC, which is our African Rehabilitation Center. It is also known as the Amos Wilson Collective. It's our collaboration with the African War College. So you get access to our private Discord server. You get access to our Moonly, which is monthly healing ciphers that we do. Intuit is the program. You also get access to our Community Connect, which is the monthly gathering of our members, and also our monthly warrior workout. And so much more. You get our moon letter, you get the full extended reading, and access to any other exclusive gatherings. And that's just at the Kingdom rank. If you're interested in getting the courses and workshops, then you can definitely join at a higher rank. But again, all that information is in the description box below. I want to thank you for trusting your energy here, and please just trust that if you're here, there was something here for you. And I welcome you to subscribe so you can stay tuned to other messages that may be for you. All right. I hope that you have a beautiful rest of this moon cycle and really make the space that you need to tune into your thoughts, process them, write them out, connect internally to how and what you're experiencing within yourself is very, very important to do that work during this retrograde period. It begins on the 23rd of August through to mid-September. So again, I really want to encourage you to do that. And again, if you're a member, if you're at the Galaxy rank, you will get access to our retrograde care kit, which is a beautiful kit that we hand curate from our spiritual marketplace, Queens and Karis. And if you're at the Empire rank, you'll get our retrograde care guide. Purchase the retrograde care kit, then you can do so at the Empire rank as well. All right. Well, I hope you have a beautiful, blessed day. Thank you so much for joining the reading. Please give us a like and subscribe. All right. Power, travel light, bless. Ooh, it's frozen. All right. If you're still here, just leave me a comment.